Hello, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me here today on Narcissism 101, Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Good morning. Hoping you're having a great Friday. And before we get into what we're going to talk about today, as usual, if you want a one-on-one session, please feel free to email me at paul.wisdom_03@hotmail.com, or you can send a text to 647-406-3057. If you want to call, just send a text to that number and just let me know that it's you, and then we can get into talking about your situation, and we can then get you the help that you need. Okay, so what we are going to talk about today is there are two sides to every story. Yes, we are going to talk about that today. There are two sides to every story. And as it relates to the narcissistic experience, it is true. There are two sides to every story. Now, when it comes down to the narcissistic experience, what we're referring to is the fact that during the narcissistic experience, the relationship, the marriage, whatever you want to call it, whatever situation that you found yourself in with the narcissist, whether you were born into the narcissistic family, whether it's at work and you're dealing with a narcissistic boss or a narcissistic coworker or colleague, whatever you want to call it. All narcissists, they all play by the same playbook. They all do the same things. And when it comes down to the fact that there are two sides to every story, there's your side of the story, and then there's the narcissist side of the story, which usually has nothing to do with the story or whatever the situation was, because the narcissist, they're always flipping the narrative. They're always trying to get one up on people, and they believe that if they can get one up on somebody, they believe that they have won, because this is what they do all throughout their lives. This is all they know how to do, is just destroy and crush and destroy as many people's lives as they can. I've mentioned this in majority of my videos that narcissists thrive off of chaos, confusion, and control. And narcissists, they know exactly what they're doing, and they do it to not just one person at a time. They have many people in the narcissistic abusive cycle at one time. Some people they have in the love bomb stage, some people they have in the devaluation stage, some people they're about to discard, they're about to get rid of. That's why they have so many relationships going on at one time. That's why they have so many things going on at one time, because they can't sit still. They always have to be on the go, right? So when we're talking about the fact that there's always two sides to every story, picture this. You're at a store, for example, and you see or not even a store. You could be on a date, for example, with your significant other, and then let's say that you're sitting, you guys are enjoying your food and whatever and whatnot, and then the couple across from you, there's the guy or the girl, they're yelling at either the guy's yelling at the woman or the woman's yelling at the man, and the man's just sitting there taking it, or the woman's just sitting there taking it, and you're thinking to yourself, what's really going on over there? Why are they arguing? What happened? Who caused the situation? And you're trying to figure out what's going on. Or sometimes what people will do is they'll judge and they'll say, "Oh, that guy's a narcissist. He's there yelling at his wife. Who yells at their woman, in front of everybody? What the heck's going on there?" And then the woman's just sitting there, just taking it. Or flip it, vice versa. The woman is yelling at the man, and you're judging, saying, what kind of woman would be yelling at her man, in front of everybody while he just sits there and takes it? Now, we're sitting there judging and we're trying to figure out what's going on. But what we don't know is that there's two sides to every story, right? We think that the guy who's yelling at his woman is the narcissist, but what we don't know is maybe that woman is giving him the silent treatment, or said something that really, really drove him upset, drove him to get mad, and he has no reason but to let off that steam, because he has no way to blow it off. Right now, I'm not for that. I'm not for people yelling at each other in front of everybody. I'm causing a scene. I'm not for that, although sometimes it's necessary. But usually in the normal course of things, there's better ways to handle your anger, right? You can do it in private. You can pull them aside and say, let's go outside, let's talk in the car, or let's we'll deal with this when we get home, sort of thing, right? But either way, we like to judge. We like to believe that We like to believe that there's only one side to the story, right? Whereas in that situation, when you're there, you think that that guy, that he has a serious problem to be yelling at his woman in front of everybody, right? But what you don't know is maybe that guy is putting up with a lot of abuse and he's trying to get her to listen. Maybe she's the one that's the problem and is just sitting there smirking at him while he's trying to get his point across and she's not listening to him, right? Or vice versa, what could be is that maybe he is the narcissist. Maybe he is the one that's, the unstable one that's toxic, right? But we don't know that, see? And that's what I'm trying to say. That's why I made this video today entitled There's Two Sides to Every Story, right? So before you go and judge and before you call the other person a narcissist, you need to know the full story. You need to know both sides to every story. And this actually happens a lot, not just in relationships, but at work or in the church even, or at the store, or in the government system, or in the legal system. This happens everywhere, right? Where people get in trouble because they get the other person gets in trouble because they weren't willing to hear the other person's side of the story, or because they judge and they think that they just paint that person in a bad light because he's black, or because she's black, or because she's of another race, or because she's a woman, or because he's a black man or a person of a minority. We have so many we place so many judgments on things that we don't even know. Right? So what I'm saying here, and you can leave a comment down below if you understand what I'm saying, if you can relate, what I'm saying here is that we need to learn how to just be quiet. Or we need to learn how to, learn to figure out what both sides of the story are saying before we start judging people, right? Because you never know, and it will shock you. Just the other day, actually, I was actually going to look about getting a loan, getting a loan. And when I was looking to go get this loan, I didn't actually get the loan, but I went to go look about getting one. And when I left the store, when I walked out of the place I was looking to get the loan from, this guy, he's like, "Wow, you're so much richer now. Look at that. You have so much money now." And then in my head, I didn't say anything to him, but then we struck up a conversation where he was like, there's so much poverty going on, and we were able to strike up a conversation. But in my head, I'm saying, this guy doesn't know what happened to me. He doesn't know whether I actually got that loan or not. He wasn't there when I was turned down, and I found out that I wasn't getting that loan. He was judging me, right? And he didn't even know what happened. Little did he know, if he actually knew that I actually did not get the loan, he would be like, "Oh, wow, okay." So what I'm saying here, guys, is that we need to stop placing judgments on people. Now, hold on. There is a caveat, and I will say this. The caveat is that sometimes people show you exactly who they are through their actions. Right? Actions speak louder than words. And I think I probably made a video on that, or I spoke about it in one of my previous videos. But when people show you who they are, right, then you have no reason to doubt that this is who they are, because now you have something to go off of. But if you don't know this person, if you're just placing judgments on them based on what somebody else said and told you, that is so unfair. Right? And that's what narcissists do. Think about the smear campaign for a second, right? And I mentioned in one of my other videos in the past that I really hate the smear campaign. The narcissists, they dish out so many tactics. For example, they financially abuse, they spiritually abuse, they emotionally abuse, at times physically abuse if you're dealing with a malignant narcissist. What else do? They gaslight people, they manipulate people, they stonewall people, they blame shift people, they shift the blame onto others, they project, they mirror, they do all these nasty things. But think about the smear campaign, for example. What is the smear campaign? The smear campaign is when the narcissist is telling flat out lies about you, the person watching my video of the empath. And if you're a narcissist, please, you're not welcome here. But if you're watching my video and you're an empath, this is when the narcissist is going around and spreading flat out lies about you to other people that aren't even true, right? And the narcissist does this because because for two reasons. One, they want to cause chaos and confusion and control, because they know if they can cause chaos, they know that it can confuse you, because when you have all these people now coming to you saying, this person said that about you, when the narcissist was saying all good things to your face, and everything was all good, now you're scratching your head saying, what the hell? That's not what happened. That's not what they told me. Now you're gaslighted. Now you're experiencing cognitive dissonance. I'll make a video on what that is, all in and of itself. And then now the narcissist has control over you, because now they know that they're controlling you. Because narcissists, they thrive off of their end game is control, and they like to control people through everything. Right? Because they need control. They need to be able to control people, right? And the second reason why the narcissist does a smear campaign is because they know that when they're smear campaigning you and they're telling those lies about you to other people, they know that most of those people will listen. They know that most of those people, because narcissists, remember, they know exactly what they are doing. They know the exact things to say to people to get them to listen to them, right? So that's why when people just come to you and start talking to you about other people and about other things, about other people, you should be very, very careful as to what you are listening to. And you should be asking yourself two questions. Do I know this person? Why are they telling me this? And the second thing that you should be asking yourself is, why is this person saying this about another person? Why would they do that, right? These are some questions that you need to ask, and you shouldn't be so quick to just listen, because chances are that same person that's telling you that thing is the very person that you should probably stay away from, right? That's why the smear campaign happens, because the narcissists, they want to dodge accountability. They don't want to be accountable for the damage that they've done to the other person that they're gossiping about. Because the narcissist knows that they are evil to their core. The narcissist knows that they destroy people's lives every single day, of every minute of every single day, right? So that's why I say, guys, when it comes down to it, always learn to know learn about both sides of the story. That person that's gossiping, look to go and talk to the person who actually who they're talking about. Reach out to them and say, hey, yo, this person's telling some lies about you, and I'm not sure, what I heard, but I just want to know, is any of this true? Give me some information. Look to figure out both sides of the story, because a lot of the times, and not everything is as it seems, and not everybody is who they claim to be. People can claim to be whomever they want. There are people who talk out of both sides of their mouth, and they get others to believe them because they're master manipulators. And so what I'm saying here, guys, that's why I created this video today, to urge you, especially as we're going into the weekend. The weekends, people, you find a lot of things on the weekends. But what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that, be very careful with who you listen to, with who you get information from, right? Obviously, if it's a person you can trust, then obviously listen to what they have to say. But what I'm saying is that be careful who you get information from, right? Especially if you don't know the person personally, be very, very careful who you get information from, because people have a way about them people have a way of making others look bad, right? People have a way of showing their jealousy in other ways. Some people are jealous and envious of others, and so they need to try and destroy their reputation at all costs. Some people think that they can get one up on people by destroying them through a smear campaign, right? So what I'm saying here, guys, is really be careful. Listen to both sides of the story. Hear both sides. That's what I wanted to say. Hear both sides of the story. Don't just listen to one side. Listen to both sides before you cast judgment out on another person. Just because somebody says that this person is evil, this person is a monster, or this person is a dangerous person, you should stay away from them. But you don't know the other side of the story. You don't know that other person personally. Maybe you should go and hear what that other person has to say, because you don't know what happened. You don't know what happened to that person. Before you start, if you're a manager, for example, let's say that you're trying to figure out, whether whether that person that you're hiring is a good hire, but you went and did a reference check, and then when you did a reference check, the boss that you were talking to, that person was saying very, very bad things about the person that you are. Now, I'm not trying to say that every boss is a narcissist. That's not what I'm trying to say. Sometimes there are bosses that will say that, that person, they don't have what it takes for that job. And, sometimes that's appropriate. But what I'm saying is that look at both sides of the story, right? If the boss is saying, that potential boss, that reference you're talking to is saying, oh well, this person, they don't know what they're doing, they're not a good person, I wouldn't recommend you hire them for this position, I would say go talk to the person. Go talk to your person that you're interviewing with. Say, I heard from your boss that that you weren't that you didn't do your work, and that you weren't on time for work, and that you didn't do your job and things. Have a conversation with them, because you would be surprised to find out that that person has a lot of potential, and that boss that person was working with, is a very toxic boss, and that boss is jealous and envious of that person, and they don't want to see that employee, they don't want to see them succeed, so they will do anything at all costs to cut them down, because they know that they have the potential to be great. So what I'm saying here, guys, is, like I said, really be careful. Think about, for example, you're in your family, right? And one of your siblings, there's a sibling rivalry going on, and then one of your siblings says to the other sibling, oh, stay away from that sibling, stay away from brother X, or stay away from sister Y, because they have problems, they have challenges. But all the while you get along with them very well. You get along very well. You guys love each other. But that sibling, for some reason, is saying something like that. Go talk to your sibling and say, hey, look, I heard some things about you. The other sibling talk to them in private, obviously, that, the other sibling is saying some mean things. You want to talk about it? And then they say, and then if they start yelling and screaming at you, saying, why do you want to know? What's your problem? Then they start getting at you. Then you know that person is the problem. But if they're willing to talk about you and say, why would they be saying something like that about me? I don't know what they're talking about. And then they show you by their actions that they actually mean well. Then you know what you're dealing with. So what I'm saying here, guys, don't be so quick to judge all the time. Don't be so quick to assume anything about just everybody. Right? Because there's always two sides to every story, especially when it comes to a narcissist, when they try to make the other person out to be the bad guy, when they spread the smear campaign, when they're yelling and screaming, in public, or when they're shaming someone and things like that, always look to find out both sides of the story. Don't be so quick to judge, because when you're quick to judge, what you're saying is that you may even be the narcissist. You may even be toxic, right? So what I'm saying, guys, is just be careful, right? Do your due diligence, right? Be smart, right? Do the right thing, right? The right thing is to understand what both sides of the story have to say, right? Listen to both sides. Don't be so quick to just listen to one side just because they're your friend, or just because you've known them for 20 years or 30 years, because you may very well find out that that friend is probably also doing the same thing behind your back, or that person you've known for 30 years isn't the person you thought that they actually were, right? Because again, not everybody is who they claim to be. Very few people are actually who they claim to be. Very few people are actually the same person that they are behind closed doors. If you have, let's say, a boss who's a really good boss, right? But yet behind closed doors, you find out that from their spouse, that they're not the same person at home. Well, then you have your answer, right? That person isn't the same person whom you thought that they were, right? So what I'm saying here, guys, again, and I've been reiterating this throughout the course of this video, there are two sides to every single story. Don't be so quick to judge. Listen to both sides. Listen to what both people have to say, and then make your judgments, and then you can start judging, right? Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for being here today. Really appreciate you joining me here today on Narcissism 101 Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Like I said, if you want a one-on-one session, please email me at paul.wisdom_03@hotmail.com, or you can send a text to 647-406-3057. If you want to call, just let me know that you want to just send a text to that number. Just let me know that you want to talk to me and that it's about your narcissistic experience. And I'd be more than happy to give you the help, more than happy to give you some advice, and then we can move forward. All right. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that this video helped you out. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, share it with somebody who you think can use the knowledge. Also, check out the podcast I spoke on about my narcissistic experience. This should give you some insight and some more knowledge into what I went through and how I got out and how I dealt with it and how I continue to move about my life. Yeah, guys, so thank you so much for being here. Hope to see you on the next video. Thank you so much.